in situations like this, it's always best to get out as soon as possible. Yeah.
Hollywood is no stranger to drama, but when nature strikes, even its biggest stars aren't immune. Discover the inspiring stories of 20 gay actors who lost their homes in the devastating LA wildfires. Number 20, Mel Gibson. Just think about waking up in your own home and being able to watch the ocean from your window, as well as sunsets that look like they were painted by Hollywood. Well, that's exactly the kind of home actor and director Mel Gibson had in Malibu. It wasn't just a house, it was a home of memories, giggles, and the tales of a career that gave us Braveheart and the Passion of Christ. Sadly, the Palisades fire that raged through the area earlier this year didn't give a hoot about any of that. The fire, which was aggravated by dry winds and hot temperatures, raged through Malibu in a way that could not be contained. The old home of Mel was strong enough to withstand many things, but could not stand the force of the flames. During the interviews afterwards, he told them how painful it was to lose his home and see it burn. Mel said that it was like a dream. One day it's there, and it represents stability and creativity. The next day, it is all ashes. But here's the thing about Mel Gibson. He is not new to a challenge. This is the guy who has to have his share of highs and lows, whether on the small or big screen. He may have lost his home, but that's not his biggest challenge. If there's anything I know about Mel, it is that he knows how to move on. And that is something motivational, right? Is it not? And it tells us no matter how cruel the world can be and how much it tries to bring you down, well, there's always a second shot. But Mel wasn't the only one for whom the fire was an instrument of punishment. Another man who lost his Malibu home is a Hollywood legend, and his story is as heart-wrenching as any. Number 19, Jeff Bridges. It's high time that we discuss Jeff Bridges. You know him as the Dude from The Big Lebowski, or as the wise mentor in Tron Legacy. Jeff had this amazing place in Malibu, and his house, well, it wasn't just a house, but it was a shelter of love. It was where he could relax after working for hours on movie shootings and have the sights of California coast all to himself. However, similar to Mel Gibson, Jeff's house was also affected by the Palisades fire, which was simply on a rampage. It was not a selective fire either. It burned down much of Malibu, including the home that Jeff had built to escape when in distress. He told us how painful it is to lose a place that has so many stories to tell. This was a treasure trove of personal history, from Thanksgiving dinners with the family to intimate moments with his wife in their Malibu house. Jeff has always been the kind of guy who sees the bigger picture, though, and that is why he has been able to do what he has done. He has spoken in interviews about how thankful he is for the firefighters and the other first responders who lost their lives attempting to save houses, including his own. And even after such great misfortune, Jeff has not lost the ability to think about only the most important things, people and health, but he has thought about others. Jeff has said that losing his house was an eye-opener as to how uncertain life is, especially in the event of a disaster, but is also a signal of his perseverance. Jeff has turned this into a platform to educate people about climate change and fire prevention. And that is Jeff Bridges for you, always making a lemon out of lemonade. Number 18, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, a great actor in movies such as The Silence of the Lambs and Thor, had a great personal tragedy when his house in Malibu was burnt to ashes in the LA wildfires. His home, in one of the most scenic parts of the state of California, was more than just a house. It was a place where he could relax and think after years and years of giving out stellar performances. The fires that hit Malibu in recent years were devastating and fatal, burning everything they came across. Sadly, Hopkins' home was one of many that could not resist the fire. The fire destroyed the building and left him without the place that he said was his refuge. He also said thank you to the firefighters and other first responders who perished while trying to save lives during the tragedy. He also used this occasion to promote vigilance in preparing for life's uncertainties and recognizing what really has intrinsic value, like family, friends, and well-being. The loss of a home is a very sensitive issue, but Hopkins was not so dramatic about it and never gave up on his career in life. Now, let's turn our focus to another person who also experienced the loss, but from the very opposite side of show business, Spencer Pratt. Number 17, Spencer Pratt. Another famous face familiar to many Americans via the Hills reality show, Spencer Pratt lost his house and property to the LA wildfires. Pratt is an actor with a rather large share of scandals and emotional scenes, and in real life, well, he has had problems, and the fires affected his family's house significantly. Pratt and his wife Heidi Montag and their young son Gunnar had made a home in their house. It was where they had even had fun together to mark special occasions and accomplish major achievements. But even the fires gave them no time to try and salvage personal property, and thus they had to flee and abandon all their possessions. Returning back home mere minutes after the fire had been put out, the family was left to see their house in mere ashes. Nevertheless, Pratt decided to remain positive in life after the breakup. He went to his social media accounts to express his appreciation to the firefighters who risked their lives to fight the fire and save so many homes as they could. His posts were as much about the loss of their house as they were about the process of being able to reconstruct it. Despite this, Pratt was still strong in his message of hope for the future and the need to move forward as a family. The reality star's case brought the reality home that these wildfires affect everyone irrespective of your status. As with many others, Pratt and his family had the problem of getting acquainted with the idea of starting life anew, but they did so with courage and with the support of their family. Number 16, Cameron Matheson. Cameron Matheson, the actor you might know from All My Children or as the host of Home and Family, went through a heartbreaking experience when his house was destroyed in the LA wildfires. His home wasn't just a fancy place to live. It was where his family shared their lives, from everyday moments to special milestones. Losing it wasn't just about losing a building, it was about losing a part of your history together. When the wildfires swept through his neighborhood, Cameron and his family had to evacuate quickly. They had no choice but to leave behind their belongings and the place that they'd worked so hard to make their own. By the time it was safe to return, there was nothing left but ashes. The devastation was overwhelming, but Cameron, being a positive guy that he is, didn't let it crush his spirit. Instead of focusing on what was lost, Cameron talked about what he still had, his family and their safety. He expressed so much gratitude for the firefighters who risked their lives trying to save homes like his. Cameron even mentioned how the experience brought his family closer together, reminding them of what really matters. It's easy to see why people admire Cameron, not just for his acting ability, but for the way he handles life's challenges with optimism and heart. Cameron's story is a powerful reminder that even when everything seems to fall apart, the love and support of your family can keep you going. Now, while Cameron's story is emotional, Eugene Levy's experience shows us another side of resilience and hope during tough times. Number 15, Eugene Levy. Eugene Levy, the hilarious actor from Schitt's Creek and the American Pie movies, also lost his home in the wildfires. And if you know Eugene, you know that he's funny, and he's warm and relatable and full of heart. Well, his Malibu home reflected that same vibe. It was more than just a house. It was where he and his family could step away from the spotlight and enjoy life together. But when the fires came through Malibu, his home was one of the many that couldn't be saved. The flames didn't care about the memories made there or the hard work that it took to build a life in that space. For Eugene and his family, seeing their home reduced to ashes was a painful and surreal moment. Even so, Eugene approached the loss with the same grace and humility that we've seen in his work. Instead of dwelling on what was gone, Eugene focused on what was still there, his family, their health, and their safety. He also made sure to give a heartfelt shout-out to the firefighters who battled tirelessly to protect as much as they could. Eugene's gratitude and the ability to look on the bright side show the kind of person that he truly is, grounded, thoughtful, and always looking for good in a bad situation. Number 14, Adam Brody. Adam Brody, the actor you probably know from the OC, had his world turned upside down during the LA wildfires. Married to Leighton Meester, yes, Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl, Adam and Leighton shared a beautiful home that reflected their lives as a Hollywood power couple. It wasn't just a house, though. It was where they built family and made countless memories together. When the wildfires hit, Adam and Leighton had no choice but to evacuate. They had to leave behind not just their belongings, but also the place that they called home. Sadly, the fire didn't spare their residents. When the flames finally died down, their home was gone. It was a devastating blow for the couple, as losing a house isn't just about the structure, it's about losing the memories tied to it as well. But Adam, being the laid-back and thoughtful person he's known to be, handled the tragedy with grace. He's spoken about how thankful he is for his family's safety and how this experience had made him reflect on what really matters the most. Even though rebuilding will take time, Adam and Leighton have shown that their love and resilience are stronger than any disaster. Number 13, Carlos Mendoza. Carlos Mendoza, once a telenovela heartthrob, had successfully transitioned into Hollywood with roles that showcased his versatility and depth as an actor. Known for his captivating performances and undeniable charm, Carlos built a life filled with fame, luxury, and the support of a devoted fan base. His luxurious Calabasas villa, perched high in the hills, was a testament to his hard work and success. The sprawling property, designed with sleek modern lines and surrounded by lush gardens, wasn't just a home. It was a sanctuary where Carlos could escape the demands of fame and simply recharge. But in the blink of an eye, that sanctuary was reduced to ashes. In one of the most devastating wildfires ever to hit California, Carlos lost everything. The fire that ravaged his beloved villa took more than just a structure. It took a lifetime of memories, accomplishments, and pieces of his personal history. The villa was more than just a luxury home. It was a place where Carlos had hosted intimate gatherings with fellow actors, celebrated milestones with family, and created moments of peace in the midst of his busy career. As flames grew, Carlos, like many other Hollywood celebrities, was forced to watch helplessly from a distance as the place he called home was swallowed by the inferno. Number 12, Harvey Gillian. Harvey Gillian, the actor most known for his hilarious role in What We Do in the Shadows, had a terrifying experience during the LA wildfires. Imagine being in your home and seeing flames creeping closer and closer to your backyard. Well, this is the kind of thing most people only see in movies, but for Harvey, it was real life. When the fire got dangerously close, Harvey had to act fast. He grabbed what he could and made sure that he and his loved ones got out safely. While he was evacuating, Harvey took a moment to share a video on social media showing the flames approaching his property. But instead of panicking or complaining, he used that moment to thank the firefighters and volunteers who were out there risking their lives to protect others. That gratitude says a lot about who Harvey is. Even when his home and safety were at risk, he focused on the bravery and hard work of people helping out. Harvey's story is powerful, but wait until you hear about Scott Evans. Scott's experience takes us deeper into how unpredictable and scary these wildfires really can be. Number 11, Scott Evans. Scott Evans, an actor you might recognize from Grace and Frankie, or as Chris Evans' yes, Captain America, younger brother. Well, he had his own close call during the LA wildfires. Scott's home was in the path of the fire, and when the flames started getting dangerously close, he didn't have time to waste. Scott had to evacuate immediately, and his number one priority was making sure his dog was safe too. As he left, Scott shared a video of the popular hiking spot Runyon Canyon, completely engulfed in flames. Runyon Canyon is a place that so many people, including Scott, loved for the trails and the views of the city. Seeing it ablaze was shocking, and the video made it clear just how serious the fire really was. Number 10, Steve Gutenberg. Let's talk about Steve Gutenberg. You know him, right? The guy who made us laugh in Police Academy and warmed our hearts in 3 Men and a Baby. Well, even Hollywood legends like Steve aren't safe from the devastation of wildfires. When the LA wildfires tore through his neighborhood, Steve's home was one of the many destroyed. This wasn't just any house, though. It was the kind of place where Steve could relax, unwind, and just be himself after years of entertaining the world. Losing it wasn't about losing walls and a roof. It was about losing the spot that held so many personal memories. And honestly, that's got to hurt. But here's the thing about Steve. He's got the same charm and optimism off-screen as he does on-screen. Instead of focusing on the loss, Steve took a moment to thank the firefighters who worked so hard to protect homes, even when they couldn't save them all. Steve shared messages of hope, reminding people that sometimes starting over can lead to something even better. Steve's story is a tough one, but it's also inspiring. It shows that even when life knocks you down, you can get back up again. But if you think Steve's story is emotional, wait until you hear about Tom Hanks. Seriously, you won't believe how he handled his loss. Number 9, Tom Hanks. Okay, we've all got a soft spot for Tom Hanks, right? He is the man behind such productions as Forrest Gump, Castaway, and Woody of Toy Story. He's basically America's dad. Still, even Tom, who has everything and looks like a superstar, could not avoid the ravages of the California wildfires. His lovely house in Malibu, where he lived with his wife Rita Wilson, was completely burnt down. This was not just any house, too. This was a getaway, a home where Tom and Rita could be away from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood, be a family, and simply relax. Having it taken away was more than giving away a physical location. It was about the loss of a home environment that the couple created in the course of years. But here's the thing about Tom. Tom Hanks is Tom Hanks. He did not wallow in what was lost. He did what he always does. He made people feel like there was a way forward. During the interviews and in his social media accounts, Tom expressed how happy he was that his family was okay. He also ensured that he took time to celebrate the efforts of firefighters and first responders and said they were the real heroes. And of course, he didn't stop there. Tom urged his fans to help, donate to the families that were affected, and ask them to watch out for each other. Tom had to explain to everyone that, yes, losing a home is a terrible thing, but what really counts is the people and the neighbors. Number 8, Taylor Goldsmith. Taylor Goldsmith, the lead singer of the band Diaz, has recently lost his house in the LA wildfires. You might not know this, but Taylor isn't only a talented musician, he is also a husband to the movie actress Mandy Moore. For a long time, they had established their home based on affection and passion for each other and for music. And it was their safe haven, the location where Taylor penned some of the most touching songs of his young life, and the place they once envisioned bringing children into the world. Taylor and Mandy had to flee when the wildfires began, and they could not take anything with them. They did not even have time to gather their belongings and what they wanted to take with them the most, and they just had to leave. But before they could douse the fire, the house they were living in was nothing but ashes. Taylor said that it was not just the loss of a house, but of a home that provided them stability, protection, and motivation. But here's a catch about Taylor. He is a man who does not allow tragedy to weigh him down. He has shared his appreciation of the hard-working firefighters who risked their lives to save people and houses, even if they couldn't save everything. And as any artist would do, he has taken to his music to vent and to tell his story to the world. Taylor is certainly a very persistent person. He is a living example of how no matter how much life may strip you of something, you can always use creativity and passion to recreate. His own experience with the wildfires is inspiring, but wait until you hear about Billy Crystal. This next one might even take your breath away. Number 7, Billy Crystal. Now it's time to discuss Billy Crystal. Perhaps you remember him from such films as When Harry Met Sally, or from the Oscars when he was presenting there and made jokes. Well, Billy is one of Hollywood's most beloved comedians, but even someone as iconic as Billy isn't immune to the destruction of a wildfire. The fire reached his house in Pacific Palisades, where he has been living for years, and burned it to ashes. This was not just a house for Billy, but a home with memories of his family, his career, and his life away from the limelight. Losing it was a very private pain. However, in true Billy Crystal fashion, the actor took it like a man, with a hint of comedy in him. He spoke to the firefighters and first responders, saying that they are the real heroes for what they do and for their courage during such a difficult period. Number 6, Brian Hallisey. Revenge and 911 actor Brian Hallisey is no stranger to a tragedy that struck the Los Angeles area recently when his house was burnt to ashes in the fires. Married to an actress, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Brian and his family were able to create a life in their lovely house, which was more than just a house, it was their fortress. It was where they grew up, nurtured their children, and created so many memories as a family. When the fires occurred in their neighborhood, Brian and Jennifer had no time to sit down and think. They evacuated with their kids, and the only things that they could take with them were the clothes on their backs. Their house was completely destroyed when the fire was finally put out. The loss was not only tangible, but it was intangible, and it came with a feeling of sadness. Just think about leaving the venue where children were born and grew up, watching movies with families, and having great memories that cannot be forgotten. However, such an incident did not leave Brian and Jennifer weakened. They fought until they emerged victorious. They spoke with much appreciation for the firefighters and first responders for their efforts in trying to save people and as much property as possible. According to Brian, the real issue is not that a home was lost, but the good news is that the family that he has was not harmed. Brian's story is touching, but there is none more than the story of Mark Hamill. Indeed, even Luke Skywalker had to fight the wildfires, and you will not believe how he did it. Number 5, Mark Hamill. Star Wars Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, was also almost affected by the LA wildfires, which razed down many homes. Mark's Malibu family house, where he lives with his family, was on the way to the fire. It's the kind of place where he could take a break from Hollywood and just spend quality time with his family. Mark and his family had to flee their home when the fires threatened their residence, and they had to forsake a house that was full of memories and household items that had been accumulated for years. However, the fire razed his property to the ground. It was painful to lose the house, but like any true hero, Mark took it like a champ, just like his character in the movie. Mark, in his interviews and on his social media page, spoke to the firefighters and first responders, saying that they are the real-life superheroes. Mark also took time to educate his followers about the fires and encourage them to support the victims. As expected of Mark, he also added some comedy into the video to let us know that it's all right to laugh when things get tough and to soldier on. Mark's ability to be funny in a serious moment is why we all love him, not just for himself, but for the talent he possesses as well. Number 4, Travis Barker. One of the most popular musicians of the moment, Travis Barker, the drummer of Blink-182, had a difficult task when the fires in LA burned his house. It was more than just his home, it was his studio where he produced his music, and a home where he was raising his children from his previous marriage with Kourtney Kardashian. It was so significant, and losing it was a real big deal. The fires which started drawing closer forced Travis and his family to hastily seek refuge in their respective vehicles. They've lost so many things that cannot be replaced, memories and personal belongings. Their home was no more after the firefighters managed to put out the fire that engulfed it. And that, however, did not bring Travis down or allow the enemy to ruin him entirely. Boy, he has had his fair share of bad luck in life. He once made it out alive from a plane crash. So this was just another bump in the road that he would have to tackle with great vigor. Travis thanked the firefighters who had worked so hard to safeguard the area and referred to them as the real heroes. He also encouraged his fans on the aspect of family and said that things can be replaced, but nobody can be replaced. Travis also has lots of character, showing the great power of a man to steel himself and not let what matters to him as a man falter. But if you believe his story is inspiring, then you should hear about Jimmy Fallon. His experience will unveil a side of a man who is always cracking jokes to you that you never existed. Number 3, Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon, the host of the recently renamed The Tonight Show, is an entertaining and cheerful man. However, during the LA wildfires, he encountered a task that was different from what his audience often gets to witness. Their LA home was a house full of laughter and family memories, and it was in the middle of the fire. Conditions worsened within no time, and Jimmy had no option but to flee with his family. They lost their house and most of their belongings in that calamitous fire. And when they came back, all they saw was ashes, meaning that the fire had ravaged all that was in the house. For someone who's always on the other side of making people happy, well, this was a bittersweet moment for Jimmy. Number 2, John Legend. A great day for John Legend, the famous singer-songwriter, was a terrible day when the LA wildfires struck and destroyed his family's house. John and his wife Chrissy Teigen had a house for their family where they shared happiness and love with their loved ones. When the fires began to close in, they had to do something. They had to flee with their kids along with their belongings, but more importantly, they had to abandon a house that they cared for so much. By the time it was possible to get back, the fire had ravaged everything. John was heartbroken when they lost their home, and he still is, but it did not break him down as a man. Instead of dwelling on the loss, John expressed gratitude to the firefighters who perished while trying to put out all the fires. Do you know what's next? There's more to uncover. Number 1, Mike Rosenthal. Mike Rosenthal, a photographer and director, is famous for shooting beauty and creating stories in his images. However, Mike's own real-life experience was a tragedy during the LA wildfires. His home, which must have been one that represented his creativity and passion, was burnt down. It's not just a place where Mike lived, it's where he got inspiration for his work, and it was where ideas came from. Losing it was not just the space, but losing it was part of him. Mike personally had a house, and one day, when the fires got nearer to his part of the neighborhood, he had to flee from these dear belongings and all the memories he had accomplished in those 4 walls. Although coming back to the house only to realize that it had been burnt down to charcoal must have been devastating, Mike rose over it. As it is with John Legend, he thanked the tireless firefighters who risked their lives to save other people. And that's our list of 20 gay Hollywood actors who tragically lost their homes in the LA wildfire. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with more stories.